last night's horrible crime against the Muslim community was an act of terror.
We're not different from other societies. We have the same devils in our society.
If you can kill a person, it's not human. You don't have humanity in your heart.
We have a responsibility to stop these hate crimes.
We are going to get the bad ones out.
Who possibly could object to that?
A single signature shut down the lives of many people trying to connect with their families.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
The mayors of some of the nation's biggest sanctuary cities are vowing to fight the order.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
And they're going to push back from it.
It was a bitter cold Quebec City night, when staying home meant staying safe. Across town, there's light coming from inside the mosque at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec.
On Sunday night and every night, almost every night, we pray the evening prayer, the last prayer of the day in the mosque.
It's 7:30 p.m. Some 65 worshippers, including women and 3 children, are beginning their Sunday prayers. At the same time, a 27-year-old man is heading towards the mosque. In his car are guns and ammunition. The night is getting colder and darker as the man pulls up to the mosque. He isn't there to pray.
Well, the prayer takes about like 10 minutes, so we finish the prayer at around 7:40, 7:45.
An unholy terror is about to be unleashed.
I heard a lot of noise.
Suddenly,
the man walks into the mosque, his weapons fully loaded. He's there to kill.
I live beside the mosque, so when I was looking back, I found that the police cars are standing over there, so I got worried. I was thinking it was fire in the mosque, something happening in the mosque.
Au début, on n'a rien compris. On s'est dit peut-être c'est des feux d'artifice. Au bout de quelques secondes, il y avait une personne qui descendait, il était en train de crier, on tire sur nous, il y a des blessés, et c'était la panique totale.
La panique totale. Chacun, il est parti à droite, il est parti à gauche. Lorsqu'il est entré, il a commencé les balles, personne. Il tue tous. Il y en a ceux qui l'ont donné la balle, ça, ils sont morts sur place. Il y en a qui ont été blessés. Donc, tout ce qui est resté en arrière, ils ont été massacrés, vraiment.
Hafid is one of 10 men piled in this alcove. He watches as the man beside him dies. By 8 p.m., police surround the mosque, and El Rafai records the chaos.
I found the ambulance and the police cars, and the whole crime has been committed. I start shooting live on Facebook. We didn't know at that point what's going on. Until we found the stretchers coming out of the main entrance of the mosque with people wounded, injured, and people maybe dead, I don't know. We start actually recognized our friends, so I start calling him. I started shouting at him just to support him, and he looked at me on the stretcher until he got in.
Who was that?
This was my friend Nizar.
Police cordon off the area, but the shooter is long gone. He'd fled in the car he'd arrived in just minutes before. At 8:10, a man calls 911 and asks to speak to investigators. He tells police he's the suspect they're looking for and patiently waits to be arrested. This is the man who surrenders to police. He's charged with 6 counts of murder and 5 counts of attempted murder. He's Alexandre Bissonnette, 27 years old, a political science student at nearby Laval University. And bit by bit, a profile of an accused mass murderer begins to emerge. As a child, he was an Army cadet, which would open his world to weapons. Though people who knew him in high school remember an introvert with a passion for chess.
I cannot visualize one single personal friend that this kid had. No, not one. So he was a truly loner, the definition of lonely at that period of his time, at least, that's for sure.
He was bullied a lot. Like, if I would have to make like a top 10 of the people that were bullied at school, he would be #1. And that's not exaggerating. Like, the whole school bullied him, almost.
So, first of all, I'd like to start by saying that around 350 million people have no access to water in the world.
Just 2 years ago, Bissonnette seemed like a pretty typical college kid, socially conscious and busy at building his online presence. By the time he got to university, his interests turned to politics, and his politics were taking a hard right turn, according to people he met in a political discussion group.
Je pense qu'il n'éprouvait aucun intérêt pour les sujets que nous abordions. Lui avait d'autres intérêts, on peut le voir pour Trump ou encore pour Marine Le Pen, ce qui, dans notre groupe, n'était pas des questions d'actualité.
Deboise says Bissonnette left the group, his opinions too radical for his fellow students. By last year, his worldview got even darker. He was known as an online troll, denigrating feminists, refugees, and Muslims. He was a gathering storm.
It was one of my friends that called me, and he said, "You won't believe who is responsible for the shooting." And then he told me, Alexandre Bissonnette. I did not believe it at first. I thought that he was joking. You know, like a kind of joke that you remember the guy that was like bullied at school? Well, he is the guy responsible for that. And when he told me that, I was in total disbelief.
Could it be a student remembered by many as a chess nerd had grown into a cold-blooded killer?
When I looked at his face, he's like a baby face. So when I thought about that, why would you do that? When you listen to the witnesses, he was very confident, he was very stable while shooting people.
Est-ce qu'il a dit quelque chose?
Non, il n'a rien parlé. Non, c'était quelqu'un qui est sûr de lui. Il l'a déchargé sur nous. Et vous avez vu le petit couloir où on mettait nos chaussures? Il se retirait en arrière. Je ne sais pas ce qu'il fait, il charge encore, il revient.
On entendait les feux et une série de coups de feu, genre une dizaine, même plus.
Il achevait toutes les blessés. Et nous, il nous ciblait de là-bas, là. Beaucoup de balles. Et c'était quelqu'un calme, il ne parle pas. Il shoot. Lorsqu'il ça termine, il ne laisse pas une seule, tu vois. C'est vraiment, il a l'intention de tuer vraiment le maximum.
This picture, taken inside the mosque as paramedics try to revive a victim, also shows 2 spent clips from what's believed to be a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Et les frères qui étaient là, on faisait la shahada. C'est-à-dire on disait La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. C'est-à-dire, on est prêt à la mort, c'est tout.
6 men would die that night. Khalid Balkacimi, Abu Bakr Thabti, Abdelkarim Hassan, Mamadou Tanu Bari, Ibrahima Bari, and Azzeddine Soufiane. Of all the victims, Soufiane was probably best known among Muslims in Quebec City. He left Morocco for Quebec City when he was just a teenager. He became a fixture in the growing community as owner of the Assalam grocery store. Its name, the Arabic word for peace. He had 3 children. Days after his death, one of his closest friends stepped in to reopen the store to help support Soufiane's family.
Monsieur Azzeddine Soufiane, c'est un ami, c'est un frère, c'est un ange.
He was quick with a smile and generous to new arrivals, providing loans, food, or jobs.
Il a aidé énormément de gens, malgré que lui, il n'aimerait pas que j'en parle. Il a été toujours discret dans son aide.
Soufiane's desire to help others would cost him his life. As the killer calmly reloaded his gun during the carnage, one man shouted he must be stopped. That man was Azzeddine Soufiane.
Il nous a dit, il faut venir le attraper, il faut venir le mettre à terre.
We are talking about an old man, huh? So, like jumping about 10 to 15 meters to stop the guy from killing his brothers. This is, I wouldn't do that, but this guy did it. And the gunman, he returned it back and he just shot him like 5 bullets in head and everywhere. He's a brave man. He's a hero for us. "24 hours after the mass murder, it seemed like half the city came out in the biting cold to attend a candlelight vigil for the victims. It was a show of solidarity. "We're all Quebecers," read one sign.
Je vous invite à une minute de silence.
They are giving us a strong message of support that we are with you. You cannot imagine how overwhelming it was for all of us.
But it wasn't always this way. Over the years, police had been called to the mosque on at least 7 different occasions to respond to threats or vandalism. It prompted the mosque to install security cameras.
At each attack, we add 1 to 2 cameras. Now we have 8. Two weeks ago, we just finalized a plan to fortify our mosque in the front of our mosque with 2 doors.
The plan called for a secured door in front and an escape door out back. But those changes come too late for the men in the mosque that night. In a bid to reclaim their religious refuge, the mosque reopened for prayers this Wednesday. It was an act of defiance, marked by tears, reflection, and unanswered questions.
Pourquoi nous? Pourquoi moi? Et pourquoi encore, je te dirais encore plus. Pourquoi moi, je suis sauvé et l'autre, mon ami proche, lui est parti? Pourquoi l'autre est blessé? Non, là, plein de questions. Plein de questions.
What was it that protected you that night? Why were you not wounded? Why are you still alive, do you think?
C'est Dieu qui m'a protégé. C'est juste ça. C'est Dieu qui m'a protégé. C'était pas notre heure. Il n'y a pas d'autre mot, il n'y a pas d'autre explication.
The biggest unanswered question is why? Why did this have to happen? 17 children lost their fathers in one senseless night of violence.
What could motivate somebody to do that?
Ignorance and hate. It's simple. He doesn't know these people. They are different, so they are our enemies. We have a responsibility to stop these hate crimes. Everyone. A strong message to all of us that we can live together.
In the United States, too, there's been plenty of soul searching.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
A sweeping immigration ban tears apart families and a nation.
People are feeling tremendous uncertainty about what actions the president and his administration might take.
Gillian Finley reports on the great divide in America when we return.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Sure, it's what he campaigned on, but how many really thought President Donald Trump would carry through, especially so quickly?
The office of President of the United States.
And this is the protection of the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States. We all know what that means. Big stuff.
And yet, there he was last Friday, just 7 days later, signing his executive order on live TV. There was little notice, no apparent consultation. With a stroke of a pen, he closed his nation's borders to hundreds of millions of the world's citizens, most of them Muslim.
We only want to admit those into our country who will support our country and love deeply our people.
Within hours, the people erupted in response.
We need to protect our rights. We need to stand up for each other.
Angry not only that refugees were being barred, but visitors and immigrants too, including legal U.S. residents. The first protests were spontaneous at airports and embassies.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
By the next day, the rallies were organized with millions gathering in Washington,
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
in New York,
And they are against everything that is American.
Chicago, and Los Angeles. And on Sunday afternoon in Boston, the cradle of American liberty.
Is illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it chips away at the very foundation of what our democracy is all about.
By now, the fight was not just about who the U.S. would let in, but what kind of a country America should be. Among the crowds in Boston was a young PhD student who came in search of that liberty. Mahdi Hashemian from Iran, here with his family for 2.5 years, concerned that among the travel ban's first victims could be his wife's mother.
My mother-in-law has a valid visa and she wants to come to see my daughter. We spent 3 months just getting an appointment, and then she finally got the visa, but now that she wants to come because of the new executive order, she cannot come. And my daughter keeps asking me that I want to see grandma, why grandma is not here yet.
The family has good reason to worry. From airports across the country have come stories of detentions and worse. A family of refugees from Syria stopped and deported. A scientist from Iran on his way to a dream job at Harvard refused entry. an Iraqi baby in the U.S. for emergency surgery whose parents were told they could not come. Each day, Mahdi has come to the airport to see if others with valid visas, like his mother-in-law, are getting through. So far, the news hasn't been good.
According to that injunction, at least, they're supposed to allow them to board and come to Boston, but we want to know if that's not happening.
That's not happening.
It's hard to make sense of this. If you look at the statistics, I don't think there is any threat. And most certainly not a threat from my mother-in-law, who has been a teacher in Iran, who wants to come to the United States to see her grandchildren.
It's hard getting any information. Those who seem to know the most are volunteer lawyers who started flocking to Boston's airport hours after the executive order was signed. Wendy Wayne, daughter of Jewish refugees who came to the U.S. to escape the Holocaust, has no trouble calling the order for what she thinks it is, a deliberate attack on Muslims.
I'm outraged because these orders are, I believe, unconstitutional and are denying people who have been granted, have been extremely vetted, very seriously vetted, repeatedly through various agencies, have been given the right to enter the United States, to live in the United States, and are, the orders that have been issued are denying them the right if they're from one of 7 countries.
Do you know that they've been stopped? Yeah, my husband with them, my husband took them.
Lawyers have been the foot soldiers in this battle so far. In arrival halls and airport cafes, they've documented abuses, fought to get detained travelers released. But as the weekend wore on, they upped the stakes, deciding to take their newly installed president to court. One of the first court challenges happened in Boston Saturday night. A team of immigration lawyers jumped into action, including Susan Cohen and Susan Finnegan. She got the call in the middle of a black tie gala.
So I immediately just dropped everything and ran out the door without my coat. And so we left in formal attire, racing into an Uber to race over to the airport.
I left a friend's birthday party with the DJ and dancing, and I was wearing a sexy little number Saturday night, and taken off my shoes and was starting to dance up a storm, and then got the call, and then immediately flew out the door saying goodbye to everybody and ran to the courthouse.
For hours that night, on smartphones and tablets, in darkened offices across the city, they drafted and redrafted their petition, asking the court to override the White House ban and let stranded people in. At 1:45 Sunday morning, barely a day and a half after Trump had signed his ban, the lawyers got what they wanted, an emergency court order valid for 7 days.
We were ecstatic, we were so happy that the judge had finally given us what we needed so that travelers coming into Boston Logan Airport would actually be able to enter the country. Yeah, we were very excited about it. Yeah, we were all jumping up and down.
Yeah. We were very excited, but also it was really amazing to get what we had asked for.
For a while, the victory seemed to make Boston's Logan Airport a safe zone, and soon the word spread. Faris Al-Sanabani, a U.S. resident originally from Yemen, had been out of the country on business. Desperate to get home, he booked 5 tickets to 5 different cities, eventually routing through Boston on his lawyer's advice.
And also the lawyer sent me some papers to show the officers here that, they cannot withdraw our green card. They cannot...
This is a copy of the court order.
Yeah, that's the copy of the court order. They cannot deport us. So I was ready. Fortunately, I had to put it in my back pocket. Fortunately, I didn't have to use it.
But Faris was among the lucky ones saved by his green card. For thousands of others traveling on visas as students and tourists, the situation was still far from clear.
I don't know what I have to do.
They'd eventually learn the White House has many ways to keep unwanted people out, and that even in Boston, one of the most liberal cities in the country, Donald Trump's ban has support.
I think Mr. Trump's trying to keep our country safe, and I'm sorry that some people are put out, but I'd rather not have my family blown up.
looks like.
Whether the Trump administration knew what it was unleashing with its travel ban is unclear. What is clear is that by day 4 of the protest, the White House was feeling pressure to at least justify the president's order, even if the explanations didn't always make sense.
Well, first of all, it's not a travel ban. It is extreme.
The president
ban.
himself called it a ban.
I understand.
Is he confused or are you confused?
No, I'm not confused.
It wasn't a ban, the president's spokesman said, but an opportunity to screen more thoroughly. And then, abandoning logic altogether, he invoked Quebec City. The accused killer, not a Muslim, not a foreigner, but a born and bred Canadian.
It's a terrible reminder of why we must remain vigilant and why the president is taking steps to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to our nation's safety and security.
Breaking news from Washington tonight.
By midweek, both sides were doubling down.
When she told the Justice Department not to defend his travel ban.
Trump fired and replaced his acting attorney general for refusing to implement his ban.
The president is not adhering to the Constitution.
5 state attorneys general announced they would join the fight against Trump.
Today I am bringing legal action
launching their own lawsuits against the presidential order.
Against President Donald Trump.
The executive order is harmful, discriminatory, and unconstitutional.
Massachusetts Attorney General surrounded herself with university and corporate leaders to make the point that banning immigrants doesn't just violate human rights. It'll have economic consequences, too.
What the president's executive order did the other day, in addition to it being unconstitutional, it really harms the interests of Massachusetts.
Maura Healey is a longtime Democrat, but says her opposition to Trump transcends party lines.
What does this say to you about the state of affairs in this country today?
I'm certainly worried about further executive orders coming from the president that may be unconstitutional. He didn't really consult lawyers. He didn't consult his federal agencies. He didn't consult intelligence or our defense community. That's a real concern, and I think across America, people are feeling tremendous uncertainty and fear in many instances about what actions the president and his administration might take.
But different people fear different things, and Boston has had its own experience with terrorism. The bombs that devastated the Boston Marathon nearly 4 years ago have not been forgotten here. Minutes south of the city at the Pilgrim Arena, Tuesday nights are reserved for the beer league. It's an honest game, not always pretty, much like the guys who play it. There's a plumber, a financial advisor, a couple of small business owners. They cheered Donald Trump's arrival at the White House, and unlike the lawyers in Boston, they don't have a lot of problems with what he's doing.
Awesome. I love it. I love what he's doing.
What in particular do you love?
Just he's not backing down from anybody, and just the immigration thing, long time coming. Totally agree with it.
At some point in time, you have to just shut off the borders and gain control of the country.
You feel that the country's out of control because of immigrants?
Yes, I do.
And yet they are sensitive to other people's tragedies. Police officer Chris Cunoff wanted to send a special message to Quebec City.
We're very sorry to see what happened. We've seen tragedy come to Boston here, and we just we know how you feel, and we're very, very sorry, and we wish our best to the people of Quebec and Canada.
Can I ask you just before you go, what do you think of this travel ban that the president?
I think Mr. Trump's trying to keep our country safe, and I think it's a ban against countries that have connections with terrorism, and I'm all for it. I'm sorry that some people are put out, but I'd rather not have my family blown up.
Back in downtown Boston, the immigration lawyers who got Trump's ban overturned temporarily are working to make it permanent. It's a challenge that could go all the way to the Supreme Court, which soon may be dominated by Trump's supporters as well. Susan Cohen isn't optimistic.
I'm worried on behalf of all the immigrants out there who are so afraid. I don't sleep very much right now because I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about many other things relating to all of this. But we don't give up fighting, and we won't stop.
All week, Iranian student Mahdi Hashemian has been going back to Boston's airport, trying to find any way to get his mother-in-law in. According to the Boston court order, she should have been allowed in. She had a valid visa. But in the end, the airline refused to carry her. It turns out that last Friday, the government did more than simply implement its ban. It canceled virtually every existing visa for people arriving from those 7 targeted countries. Mahdi's wife, Homa, took her mother's call.
She was very upset, actually, having planned everything, even, made their luggages and everything, and suddenly this happens.
Mahdi and Homa know that a canceled visit is hardly the worst thing that happened this week. On Wednesday, they were out protesting again.
No war, no ban, no religious ban.
Donald Trump has been president for just 14 days, and yet for these people, as for so many, the ground has shifted, and they still don't really understand why.
When we came here, it was all about, tolerance, making relationships, caring about people, trying to make peace in the world. But now it's all of a sudden it's something completely different. It's about banning people. It's about creating walls between people. I fear that the values that so many people fought for and tried hard to establish here is going to go really soon, and that's really disappointing.
Next on the show.
Thank you, Canadian people who help us to come to Canada. Thank you.
Here in America, President Trump's sudden and sweeping immigration ban included an order to block indefinitely refugees fleeing the war in Syria. Contrast that to Canada, which so far has accepted more than 35,000 Syrian refugees. Of course, there is one Syrian family whose tragedy captured hearts and shook consciences everywhere. That family eventually did find refuge in Canada too. And a few months ago, we traveled to Vancouver to see how the Kurdi family is getting by. On the other side of the 49th parallel, on the other side of rescue, this is what a happy ending looks like.
I miss you too. Long time.
A year and a half ago, the Kurdi family's tragedy made headlines everywhere. Like so many Syrians, they were refugees, a family torn apart. Today, they are safe and together.
Someone go! 1, 2, 3.
They're celebrating their first Thanksgiving with old Syrian traditions and new Canadian ones.
First here in Canada. Come on, you guys, come.
Okay, let's put him in.
No.
You're a big turkey.
And giving meaning to the day, as only those who've known hardship can do.
Thank you, God, for this food. Thank you, Canadian people who help us to come to Canada. I wish all of the kids in the world get food and be not hungry. And go to school, and I wish all of the country be like Canada and welcome the refugees.
A year ago, Rosun could never have imagined this. We first met her in Istanbul. Having fled the fighting in Damascus, she was on her own with 4 children, living in a basement suite 2 floors down.
Can you describe to people who've never been a refugee what it is like to leave the place that you love, where you feel you belong?
It means that you're not a person. It means you don't exist. It means that no one cares. That's what it means.
It also means hard choices. No money to send kids to school. Her teenagers, Shergul and Haveen, instead had to go to work in a clothing factory.
Our life is about waking up, going to work, and at night we come back home to sleep. That's our life.
Then as now, Turkey was awash in Syrian refugees, but the Kurdi story was known because of that tragedy. Rasoon's husband, Mohammed, and his brother, Abdullah, like so many, risking everything to get to Greece, and from there trying to get to Germany. Mohammed made it, but the raft carrying Abdullah, his wife, and 2 young sons did not. Half a world away in Coquitlam, BC, sister Tima Kurdi will never forget that call from Abdullah.
He was screaming and he said, God, I want the world to wake up. Enough pain, and I hope this will wake up the world. And I hope they will save the rest of the refugee. And he said, my son was the wake-up call.
Indeed, that image of 2.5-year-old Alan would finally pierce the world's indifference. And Canada would learn of its role in the tragedy. Months before, Tima had applied to bring her brothers to Canada and had been turned down, a decision reversed within weeks by a new Canadian government. It all resulted in this.
I'm speaking of my heart, and this is what I want to do, to thank the world, every country, open their heart to refugee. We almost lost hope. But thank you to the Canadian government.
Thank you كتير لكندا. Thank you كتير. عن جد. Inshallah.
In the 10 months since, the Kurdis have become minor celebrities. Their education in all things Canadian grows by the day. And just listen to how they've learned. 11-year-old Raneem couldn't speak a word of English when she arrived.
When I go to another school, everybody said to me, I saw you on the TV and I want to be your friend.
They've all made friends, but for the teenagers it has at times been more difficult. Instead of working, Shergo and Haveen are able to be kids again. They're back in school, a little behind, and sometimes a little perplexed by what some of their schoolmates make of them.
In my school, when I go to different classes, it's like people don't talk with me. I don't have like English, better English to talk with them. It's like so sad because I'm like person, same you. Why did you not talk with me?
For Haveen, things got easier at school when she decided to stop wearing the traditional headscarf.
My mom and dad told me to take it off. This is better to me here in this country. I don't want people different than the people. I am right now, I'm comfortable.
Of all of them, it's probably Muhammad who's had the hardest time adapting. In Syria, he was a barber, but in Coquitlam, he couldn't find work. But what about the other brother, Abdullah, the father of the little boys who drowned? He could have come to Canada too, but he chose to stay in northern Iraq, close to where he buried his family. Last summer, heart problems landed him in the hospital, and Tima flew to Iraq to be with him.
Hello.
كيفك?
Today, she tries to keep his spirits up long distance, but it's hard.
بس لازم تكون قوي. لسه عم يصير معك هيك الأحلام وما أحلام بالليل؟ مع السلامة، الله معك، الله معك. مع السلامة.
He's still dreaming. He said to me last night, his kids come to him. He was talking to them all night, and he repeated that tragedy. He keeps saying, I tried my best. I tried to save them, but I couldn't. It's not good to be alone. He can't be alone.
They look like a family well on the road to success. But the absences have taken a toll. And like all Syrians who've had to flee, they are haunted. The children will never unsee the violence they witnessed. Muhammad still has nightmares about the time he almost died at an ISIS checkpoint. And then there's the memory shared by the world of little Alan and his brother. What happened to them ensured this family's safety and that of so many others who've come to Canada. But the war in Syria continues, and for all that she's thankful for, Rasoon can't ever forget that.
I still feel a lot of pain because of Syria. But today I'm putting on a happy face for my children. If I'm happy, they'll be happy as well.
I'm a very old woman. I haven't had a date in a long time.
In these turbulent times, investigative journalism is more important than ever, and we have a way for you to keep up to date with the team you've trusted for more than 40 years. Sign up for our newsletter and get exclusive access to the Fifth Estate. You'll be the first to know about what we're working on, upcoming stories, behind-the-scenes features, and news about how our stories have changed people and their lives. You can find us at cbc.ca/fifth.
Next week on The Fifth Estate. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world, war-torn Iraq, where a chimp named Mono is trapped in a tiny cage with an uncertain future.
Mono was being held in basically a large bird cage. I thought, this isn't going to end well for anybody.
That is, until Mono met an Alberta schoolteacher who wouldn't stop until his new friend was safe.
I knew nothing about chimps, nothing about animal trafficking, but it doesn't mean that you can't step in and try and make a difference in the world. To start to try and catch the bad guys.
Fighting animal trafficking, one rescue at a time. That's next week on The Fifth Estate.
Last night's horrible crime against the Muslim community was an act of terror.
We're not different from other societies.
We have the same devils in our society.
If you can kill a person, it's not human. You don't have humanity in your heart.
We have a responsibility to stop these hate crimes.
We are going to get the bad ones out.
Who possibly could object to that?
A single signature shut down the lives of many people trying to connect with their families.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
The mayors of some of the nation's biggest sanctuary cities are vowing to fight the order.
This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
And they're going to push back from it.
It was a bitter cold Quebec City night when staying home meant staying safe. Across town, there's light coming from inside the mosque at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec.
On Sunday night and every night, almost every night, we pray the evening prayer, the last prayer of the day in the mosque.
It's 7:30 p.m. Some 65 worshippers, including women and 3 children, are beginning their Sunday prayers. At the same time, a 27-year-old man is heading towards the mosque. In his car are guns and ammunition. The night is getting colder and darker as the man pulls up to the mosque. He isn't there to pray.
The prayer takes about like 10 minutes, so we finish the prayer at around 7:40, 7:45.
An unholy terror is about to be unleashed.
I heard a lot of noise.
Suddenly,
the man walks into the mosque, his weapons fully loaded. He's there to kill.
I live beside the mosque, so when I was looking back, I found that the police cars are standing over there, so I got worried. I was thinking it was fire in the mosque, something happening in the mosque.
Au début, on n'a rien compris. On s'est dit peut-être c'est des feux d'artifice. Au bout de quelques secondes, il y avait une personne qui descendait, il était en train de crier, on tire sur nous, il y a des blessés, et c'était la panique totale.
La panique totale. Chacun, il est parti à droite, il est parti à gauche. Lorsqu'il est entré, il a commencé les balles, personne. Il tue tous. Il y en a ceux qui l'ont donné la balle, ça, ils sont morts sur place. Il y en a qui ont été blessés. Donc, tout ce qui est resté en arrière, ils ont été massacrés, vraiment.
Hafid is one of 10 men piled in this alcove. He watches as the man beside him dies. By 8 p.m., police surround the mosque, and El Rafai records the chaos.
I found the ambulance and the police cars, and the whole crime has been committed. I start shooting live on Facebook.